Joining us now, we welcome back Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator Marsha Blackburn, thank you, ma'am. So here's something a thought that I'll put to you. Suppose with this budget resolution, suppose for the next 10 years you put in a 3% GDP growth, not 1.8 like the Congressional Budget Office, but 3. Then you put in Elon Musk and DOGE spending cuts. I don't know, $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, however you need. I'm going to argue that'll get you about $4 trillion worth, covering new tax cuts, old tax cuts, middle tax cuts, cover anything you want. Border spending, defense spending, just those simple things, Senator Blackburn. I appeal to you.
Well, Larry, you and I are on the same page because, as you know, what CBO does is what we term static scoring. Mm-hmm. And that assumes that making a policy change does not yield a revenue change. That is static scoring. What we want to see is a dynamic scoring because we know that pro-growth tax cuts pay for themselves. Mm-hmm. They always have, they always will. And if we can get those two scores and then look at that range, that gives members a better idea of what the true numbers are going to be. What we do know is this: if the House cannot get the votes to come forward and support a permanence on the Trump tax cuts based on current policy, if they're not supporting that, then that is the equivalent of supporting a $4 trillion tax hike. And you're exactly right. That's a no-brainer. Every one of them ought to support that because I don't think anybody wants to vote for a $4 trillion tax hike. And then when you look at the rescissions that are happening from freezing federal hiring, from doing the federal retirements and buyouts, we're already north of 65,000 federal employees on that. When you look at what we're going to reap from DOGE, look at the money we're finding every single day, the waste that was at USAID, the waste in money that has gone to some of the UN programs like UNRWA, the waste in spending millions of dollars to teach DEI classes in Serbia. When you look at all of this and add it all up, you're going to have a big number. That is going to be a current year number. If you're looking at a 10-year window, say that number times 10, and that is going to be your savings.
I think so. I mean, I just don't understand why many people in the Senate are backing away. It's not necessary. I mean, I hate to get in the weeds in these baselines, but the fact is the Congressional Budget Office is never in favor of tax cuts. They lean, they're biased towards spending increases. As you well know, you and I have talked about this for so many years when you were a House member, and now you're an influential senator. No, I know. It's right there. I just don't understand. Senator Lindsey Graham, he's a friend. He wants to go out there, but he doesn't want to include the taxes. That makes life harder. That makes life harder for Speaker Mike Johnson, who does want to include the taxes. And ultimately, it makes life harder for President Trump, who has already said he wants the tax cuts to be permanently extended.
Absolutely, and they should be permanently extended. And whether it takes us 1, 2, or 3 reconciliations, and I favor doing one that deals with the border, energy, military, those low-hanging fruit items that we can put in a bill and build that momentum, then moving to permanence on the 2017 tax cuts so that people know what the tax code is going to be, and we get closer to a flatter rate, and then give President Trump the opportunity to come around and do a third reconciliation where we can look at some of those issues like tips and overtime and Social Security and SALT and all the other tax credits people are wanting to bring forward. Let's look at how we get the rate down so individuals are spending less, how we make certain the federal government is going to use less of the taxpayer dollars.
Yes, ma'am.